Oh, hello. Welcome to Kaiju 101 with yours truly, Professor Kaiju. You know, you may have surmised from my name, the name of this channel, that I might like Kaiju. Well, you would have surmised right. I can't get enough of those Kaiju. You know, I love them, all their terrifying and weird forms. Some call it a problem. I call it a way of life. At least it's what the voices in my head keep telling me. Possible mental illness aside, I'd like to talk to you today about a certain kaiju, one that's been near and dear to my heart since childhood. I'm talking about that radioactive dinosaur, the king of the monsters, the original Big G, Godzilla. And more specifically, his newest film, Shin Godzilla. Godzilla. Man, what a guy. Since his debut in the original Japanese classic Gojira, Godzilla has gone on to make quite a lot of sequels, with Shin Godzilla being his 31st film. No, that wasn't a typo. 31 films. You think Fast and the Furious is never ending? Then Diesel's got nothing on the Big G. Through his history, Godzilla's played many roles. First as a villain, then as a hero, then an anti-villain, then was resurrected by the souls of the Japanese troops from World War II. That's real. Look that up. But after so many incarnations, he kinda got stale. In 2004, Toho, the company responsible for Godzilla, released Godzilla Final Wars, an over-the-top action movie with so much Godzilla and kaiju goodness shoved into it, it would make a man weep. And it did just that, as Toho saw how well it did at the box office. So, Toho let the giant slumber for 10 years. Then, as the ancient prophecies foretold, he re-emerged under the American studio Legendary, and thus we received Godzilla 2014. Which led to mixed feelings from the fans. Some loved it, some hated it, some like me thought it was okay, but it had some flaws, or a bunch of flaws, or a lot of flaws. It was a very flawed movie. There was a bit of a divide in the fandom, a ditch, if you would. But the box office said, nah, this shit is lit. Toho saw how lit that shit was and was like, hey, let's make our own shit that hopefully is equally or substantially more lit than that previously mentioned shit. And so they announced a new movie in the works. They got director Hideki Anno, famed creator of Neon Genesis Evangelion. A good anime that I liked, but I thought it was kind of full of itself. And special effects director Shinji Higuchi, who's worked on the great 90s Gamera trilogy, the less great Attack on Titan movies, GMK, that's the Godzilla one with the possessed soldiers. I don't really see the appeal. And even worked on Evangelion with Anno! Together in 2016, they released a new Japanese film after 12 long fucking years. Shin Godzilla was born. And it went on to sweep the Japanese Academy Awards and became the highest grossing Japanese Godzilla film in history. But what did the fans think? Complete fucking chaos. Shin is God, Shin is shit, cats and dogs, mass hysteria. That ditch became the goddamn mariachi trench. I'm sorry? I'm being told that mariachi is a type of Mexican music. I meant to say the Mariana Trench. And so today, we're going to see what all the fuss is about. Quick disclaimer, I am not going to be doing a comparison between 2014 and Shin Godzilla. That has already been done to death. This is just a review of Shin. Don't have to worry about that. This is a safe place. I've got you. Also, spoiler alert, I'm going to be doing a review of Shin Godzilla. I will be going in depth about Shin Godzilla. If you haven't seen Shin Godzilla and or you're interested in going to see it, please go do that. It's like $20 or less off of Amazon. But if you don't, if you've already seen it, you want to see someone else's opinion, or if you haven't seen it and you don't care, I'm not your dad. I'm not stopping you, which is great, because you're kind of a huge disappointment. This is Shin Godzilla. The movie opens with the Japanese Coast Guard investigating an abandoned boat, the Glory Maru, left afloat in Tokyo Harbor. They suspect the owner to have jumped due to leaving his shoes neatly behind. That's the same way I feel when I realize what fandom I'm part of. In addition, they find a mysterious note in an origami crane. Remember this, there's going to be a quiz later. Suddenly, the boat thrashes from an enormous geyser erupting, spraying water and steam, causing a nearby aqua tunnel to collapse. Our main character enters, Rando Yaguchi, a government aide. I say main character because the movie throws quite a few characters at us as we progress, but he's our most main character. He gets filled in on the situation by his friend J-Pop. That's what I'm calling him because this man is too damn sexy for the government. He seriously should be in a Japanese pop band. The Prime Minister arrives and they narrow down the event to either a new volcano or a large undiscovered thermal vent. Yaguchi isn't sure and it's like, yo, people are putting videos on YouTube and it looks like there's some creature out there. Of course they shoot him down and move into an official on the books meeting. As they move, Yaguchi is stopped by Akasaka, special aide to the Prime Minister, who kindly reminds him who exactly got him there and not to go rocking the boat, dude. Like, seriously. The staff starts going over their evacuation measures and eventually gets word that the activity in the bay has ceased. Yaguchi interjects his idea one more time and is told by the Prime Minister himself not to make a mockery of the meeting. And of course, they turn on the TV only to see... They adjourn the official meeting in order to call another staff meeting, to which they discuss their options: extermination, capture, or expulsion. Meanwhile, the creature moves up the river causing massive flooding. The Prime Minister meets up with 3 specialists to get more information on what the creature could be, but in not wanting to hurt their own reputations if they're wrong, they do jack shit. J-Pop says he knows someone that might be able to give some insight on the creature. Hiromi Agashira, Deputy Director of... She notices the creature has feet and that it is possible it could come on land. One of the ministers is like, psh, no way. They have the Prime Minister hold a conference to calm the public, with Akasaka reminding him not to say anything that's, unverified or we can't prove. And so, what does he say? 繰り返します。巨大不明生物の上陸はありえませんので、都民国民の皆様、どうかご安心ください。総理、会見中に失礼します。And at last, we get a look at our creature. Oh my God! What's that horrifying? Oh God! It's so weird and creepy, and it jiggles. And its eyes, its soulless eyes. Oh, wait a minute! I thought I recognized it. It's Kamada-kun. Kamada-kun, get in here, you little bastard. So tell us, how was it starring in the movie, working with Anno and Higuchi? It must have been really cool, right? Oh God. Oh. Kamada-kun, I'm sorry. What movie did you want to work in? I see how it is. I see how it is. A man opens up his doors, try to help out someone when he's down on his luck. He gives you a roof, he gives you food, he gives you some work. And this is how you pay him. This is how you pay him. You make a mockery of me and this movie in front of these people. I can fit you in a blender, right? An emergency HQ is set up, and evacuation efforts finally get underway. They decide to kill the beast, but debate over whether they can use the JSDF or Japanese Special Defense Force to help fight it. So, quick history lesson time! After World War II, Japan signed a treaty with the US and created their constitution. One of the main points is that Japan can't have a true standing army, only the SDF. In addition, Japan can't use their forces unless an aggressor moves against them. But the wording is more in the sense of an aggressor country, not a giant nightmare monster. It's interesting to see how the Godzilla movies bring this up, because in basically every other movie, they act as if Godzilla is an attacking nation and have no qualms with attacking. Now, they could call up the US for help, but they have to try on their own first. An interesting point, since the entire second half of this movie is about how Japan is sort of under the US and goes into a lot of politics. The Prime Minister is urged to make an unprecedented decision right now. Yes! Right now! As helicopters are sent, one of the ministers boasts about killing the monster, and Yaguchi tactfully reminds him that it was that kind of arrogance from the imperial government that led to the loss of 3 million lives in 1945. It's very interesting seeing a film, a Godzilla film nonetheless, talking about how Japan shares the blame in World War II. Well, GMK kinda did it, but let's not discuss that. Let's put that where that belongs. The beast comes to a halt. Then, out of nowhere, its skin starts shifting as it grows in height and stands on its hind legs. Its chicken wings become tiny T-Rex arms, and that iconic roar is heard once again. Sorry, wrong clip. The helicopters arrive and move into position, but see a couple of civilians nearby. Unfortunately, this makes the Prime Minister abort the attack. It's arguable that he did this to save lives or to save face. Either way, the creature's dorsal fins start to glow and the monster hightails it back to Tokyo Bay. The next day, news narration reveals that the rest of the country is getting back to normal fairly quickly. Airports are open and trains are running on time. The cabinet ministers look over the damage, astonished at how much damage the creature did in just 2 hours. Yaguchi counters and says that they had 2 whole hours and were unable to stop it, and offers a prayer. So this Godzilla movie is a bit different from most. There's a lot of political satire making fun of how the Japanese bureaucratic government stops itself from solving problems, as shown in how many fucking meetings they have. There's also a lot of imagery used that mirrors the earthquake and tsunami and Fukushima disasters that afflicted Japan in 2011. Essentially, a lot of people agreed that the government acted too slowly during these disasters, due in part to how the government operates. I was able to attend G-Fest 2017 in Rosemont, Illinois, and saw Shin Godzilla at the local Pickwick Theater, a theater the convention rents out to show kaiju movies. We got a special treat as one of their guests, Shinji Higuchi himself, was there to present the movie and offer a little insight. They actually had someone go and study the inner workings of their government for months to give the most authentic experience of how they would actually handle such a situation. And in his own words, please be kind. In preparation for the beast's return, Yaguchi calls his friend Izumi, or as I call him, Chubbs. Now, I'm not one to pick on people just because of their physical appearance, but I don't like Chubbs. Maybe it's because most of his dialogue is about furthering his political career. Or maybe there's one particular scene later that just makes me hate him. Either way, he says he will round up some people to help Yaguchi's efforts. Yaguchi's team starts surmising anything they can about the creature. Hiromi speculates that it derives its energy from nuclear fission. Radiation has been detected in one of the cities with no known source. Turns out the creature is radioactive!
Yes, President Ross, I understand. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was that?
An aide to the president, a Kayoko Ann Patterson, is sent to meet Yaguchi. And here's another character I have a problem with. Not with the acting, but what they try to pass her off as. She's supposed to be an American, like second or third generation, and is on the fast track to becoming the president in her 40s.
Yeah, that too. No need. I trust you. Personal service. Thank you. Oh, I rushed to Yokota straight from a party, so I didn't have time to change. Just US, Japan. So, win-win. So, win-win, win-win, win-win.
Win-win, win-win, win-win.
Thankfully, Mr. Higuchi also talked about this. To the Japanese audience, she speaks very good English. Seeing previous Godzilla movies with random Japanese actors speaking English for no discernible reason, I agree, but still... Because of this, I like to call her Miss Win-Win. Miss Win-Win wants them to find a Mr. Goromaki, who disappeared some time ago. After some digging, it turns out that he was a disgraced Japanese zoologist who worked for America for a time, and happened to predict the appearance of the creature that was nicknamed
Godzilla.
The theory from Goromaki was that an ancient marine species appeared, fed on unregulated nuclear waste that was dumped in the ocean, and then mutated into a creature that would in fact thrive on it. Miss Win-Win lays out a paper that looks like some sort of a cellular array or something that's connected to Godzilla, but Goromaki left out a key to understanding it. Thanks a lot. Thanks, you fucking asshole. The group theorizes that Godzilla's blood acts as a cooling system. It needed to seek water to cool down after its latest evolution. An idea is formed that they may be able to defeat it by giving it a blood coagulant. This idea is deemed the Higuchi plan, and resources are gathered together. After several sleepless nights of research and ramen, he reappears. Bigger, badder, and holy crap, a whole lot uglier. This is the face of Shin Godzilla. As the Higuchi plan is not ready, the Prime Minister gives his approval for the JSDF to commence its attack. After going through just about everything in their arsenal, they coordinate tank, aerial, and artillery fire, and concentrate on its head and legs. It seems to be working as the beast's advance gets slower and slower, finally coming to a halt. However...
Did you see the
bridge?
They flipped the bridge!
As Godzilla nears Tokyo, everyone scrambles to evacuate the citizens. The Prime Minister is asked if they can request U.S. aid as stated in the treaty. Ambassador Win-Win sends word that America has already sent bombers to deal with Godzilla. Since the HQ is in Godzilla's path, and with no way of knowing if the US attack will succeed or not, the Prime Minister's cabinet convinces him to evacuate via helicopter. Higuchi and J-Pop get stuck in traffic and decide to help get people down into the underground shelters. Unfortunately, the attack begins earlier than expected. The ministers are optimistic and are like, "Yeah, America!" Because America's we like guns and weapons. We're good at that. Okay, so I have to redo this whole part because of YouTube's copyright bots, so let me try and summarize what I originally said and also not show the actual scene because of the copyright bots. And if you somehow haven't seen it, you really should, and it's going to do a disservice, having me talk over the whole thing. And if you have seen it, you don't need me explaining it because I believe it's the most awesome and terrifying scene of destruction to ever grace a Godzilla movie. Seeing Tokyo get literally cut in half by Godzilla's atomic breath is just stunning, and on top of that, the music helps cement it as an unforgettable part of Godzilla's history. Composer Shiro Sugisu does a great job with the score for this film, especially with the tracks Persecution of the Masses, Black Angels, Defeat is No Option, and finally the song playing during the actual attack, Who Will Know. Each song is done in an operatic style and actually sung in English, but you may still have to Google the lyrics. Now, I could get into a lot about the music, like how a lot of them can be seen as parallels for World War II, or how Who Will Know is supposed to be done as from the perspective of Godzilla. But I'm really trying to keep this short-ish. Anyway, let's return to the original review. Finally, Godzilla comes to a halt, standing eerily still, Radiation levels are high, the Prime Minister and his cabinet are dead, and Yaguchi finally loses it.
ないものを当てにすんな。今残ったものでやれることをやるだけだろ。
矢口、まずは君が落ち着け。
And this is why I hate Chubbs McKenzie. I think what they were going for this scene was like, hey, look, Yaguchi, we're like the only ones left in charge, so we got to keep our heads cool, you know? Like, we're the ones that everyone's going to look up to, so we gotta remain calm. But to me, what it really comes off like is, yo, bro, what's the big deal? I mean, our entire fucking government was just shot down by a nightmarish nuclear-fueled monster that's like, I don't know, a couple miles away from this building. Why are you mad?
すまない。
The acting prime minister is the Minister of Agriculture, getting his new position for having party loyalty and connections.
伸びちゃったよ。やっぱ総理の仕事って大変だな。
What's left of Yaguchi's team returns as they continue with their deep freeze plan, gathering more and more resources and obtaining samples of Godzilla to be analyzed. Miss Win-Win secures a meeting with the acting prime minister, letting them know that a global movement is underway to take control away from Japan, making Godzilla an international problem. However, the US hopes to keep Godzilla between them, and a joint research coalition is formed. There's a lot more political subtext here, and like all in the second half of this movie and throughout the movie, but I don't really feel like getting into. I don't do that stuff. That's for someone else, okay? They send in a drone to get a better look, but is shot down. And then this English guy is like, Godzilla has a built-in phased array radar that allows him to sense incoming attacks and objects.
接近する飛行物体は本能的に全て迎撃されると見て間違いありません。
Further analysis of Godzilla's cells show that it can continuously evolve, putting the blood coagulant in jeopardy. This means Godzilla could become larger or smaller. Hell, it could even grow wings and fly away or propagate asexually.
And that would mark the end of the human race. And that would mark the end of the human race.
Are you serious?
Miss Win-Win meets with Yaguchi and tells him the defense secretary believes the only surefire way to deal with Godzilla is a nuke, making it the third for Japan. Can you feel that shit? Because that shit just got, like, really heavy. This is some, like, really heavy shit, man. Japan is given 2 weeks to evacuate 3.6 million people. With the clock counting down, Yaguchi's team works ferociously towards the deep freeze plan. While pondering the data Goramaki left behind, they finally have a breakthrough.
Origami.
Remember the origami crane from earlier? Well, they fold the data, revealing a chart for converting elements in Godzilla's body. Of course! Ooh, why didn't I think of that? Okay, so this part is a bit thick with science talk, and I feel like they lay it on a bit too much, and it's a little hard to follow. I also feel like the crane thing was like, they were really trying to push for like some type of, you know, like twist at the end of, oh, now we figured it out through this thing. Anyways, the important part is they confirmed that the blood coagulant can still work. The acting prime minister, with the weight of the world bearing down on him, isn't sure about the plan, but ultimately decides, fuck you, UN, it's our country. The plan finally comes together. With everything on the line, Yaguchi goes out into the field, giving one last uplifting speech, and then the plan unfurls. Okay, so I'm kind of going to go off script for this part. Okay, so this is how it goes down. First, they send in trains, and you're like, what? Those are just trains. What are they doing? And then, boom, explosion. Godzilla's like, whoa, what the fuck's going on? And they're like, send in the drones. And they keep sending in drones and keep firing missiles. But Godzilla's like, did you forget my lasers? I think you forgot my lasers. And starts blasting them with his back lasers. Then they're like, oh no, we're losing more and more drones. And they're like, haha, justice is according to plan. And they keep sending in more drones. And Godzilla's like, ah, shit, I can't hit all these. I need more precision. So then he forms a fucking tail laser. Oh, for more precision, he keeps blasting him with his face and tail. And then finally, after a lot of tail and face blasting, he's like, ah, shit, I ran out of juice, and then he gets hit. And then they're like, you know, you destroy a lot of buildings, Godzilla. How about the buildings destroy you? And then they fucking blow up the buildings and drop him on his head. And he's like, oh, shit. And then he falls and collapses under them. And they're like, quickly, send him these ridiculous-looking cranes and shoot him like he's at the fucking dentist. And they keep injecting him with coagulant. And they're like, oh, we've reached 40%. And he's like, oh, fuck this shit. Blasts them all to hell. And then gets up and they're like, oh, no, send in all of the trains. And they keep sending in more and more and more trains. And they're like, oh, shit. And he finally collapses from the explosions. And they goop him up again. Just keep shoving it down his throat. And they're like, we're at maximum goop. What? Is it working? And then he gets up and they're like, oh shit, it's not. Oh, this is the end. We're fucked. And then he just freezes. The day is saved with 1 hour left on the clock. And after some more analysis of Godzilla, it turns out his radiation only has a half-life of 20 days, meaning it should be gone in only 2 to 3 years. Since the danger is gone, the acting prime minister and his staff will step down, with Akasaka suggesting that people like him and Yaguchi will be needed. And with a final scene, Yaguchi and Miss Patterson stare off at Godzilla's hideous visage in the distance, talking about how they will totally be prime minister and president of America, and their future. And with that, our story comes to a close. Or does it? And that was Shin Godzilla. Does it deserve all the praise it's gotten? Yeah, I think it does. This movie, while getting heaps of praise, has also received an equal amount of hate. Now, I know some of it comes from people jumping on the bandwagon, or from how different it is than other Godzillas in the series, most notably 2014. There are some fair criticisms, but I wholeheartedly disagree with most of them. The characters in Shin are definitely well acted and have personality, but there's not as much depth to them. They don't go through any real arc or change, except perhaps Miss Patterson, who seems extremely focused on a political career at first, but then is later distraught over the possibility of a nuke being dropped on Tokyo, so much so that she decides to stay, putting her own life in jeopardy. But this movie isn't focused particularly on its characters. It's focused on Japan and how its people can come together to solve a problem. They end up showing the best sides of Japan by showing people in their own government coming together to save their country, and to that end, they do a great job, despite having so many board meetings. And yes, they do have a lot of meetings, and they have a lot of government speak, and they just have a lot of speak in general. This movie is full to the brim with talking. However, the editing and pacing of the movie keep you interested and the plot moving. I will say in the second half it does get a bit slow, but it never made me look at my phone or fall asleep, just wanting something more to happen. Then there's Godzilla, which comes down to a lot of personal taste. I for one love his new design, and it's probably my favorite of the series. A lot of people seem to hate the evolutions, the new attacks, and of course the humanoid Zillas at the end. I can understand not liking the evolutions. They can be a bit weird, though personally I'm fine with them, but I don't understand so much the lasers. Godzilla has been very stagnant in his own series. While going through maybe some slight changes here and there, he's always kept very close to his original design and abilities. But to me, it's refreshing seeing someone take it to an extreme while still keeping the Godzilla look and feel. The weapons are actually one of the few things they were allowed to change. In an interview in G-Fan, the official magazine published by G-Fest, Shinji Higuchi talked about what they did with Godzilla. Toho apparently keeps quite a list of rules on what you can and can't do with Godzilla, especially his appearance. So Higuchi basically asked, what about his attacks and how he uses them? Thus, why his iconic atomic breath is so different and used in so many interesting ways. And that is why those creatures we saw at the end were never truly shown in the movie, because those are not Godzilla. As you can tell, I hold this movie in a high regard. I believe this movie definitely earned its awards and praise from fans. Is it perfect? No. But I do believe without a shadow of a doubt that Shin Godzilla is the best Godzilla film ever created. I know that's a blasphemous thing to say, but, well, I said it. I believe that Shin surpasses even that of the highly regarded best Godzilla film, the original Gojira. Gojira was very different from most sequels that followed. It was a serious film that delved into the horrors of nuclear radiation that Japan suffered firsthand. Shin goes back to those roots with a serious tone that brings back memories of the atomic bombings while referencing the Fukushima tsunami and earthquake disasters. But Shin goes one step further. While it too talks of the horrors of nuclear energy, it also realizes that it's here to stay whether we like it or not. There is a line in the DVD subtitled version specifically, where Yaguchi at the end of the movie says, "Mankind must coexist with Godzilla." They realize that despite the harm that nuclear energy can cause, there are good uses too, that we as a whole must learn to live in that same world. And that's Shin Godzilla, and that's what I thought about it. I hope you enjoyed my review. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts. I hope if you have seen it already, you may have gleaned something from it you hadn't before. And if you hadn't seen it, I hope maybe I got you interested in it, you know? And I know there'll be plenty of people who disagree with me, especially since I think this is the best Godzilla movie. I'm expecting, you know, some disagreements on that. And I'm sure that anyone who disagrees with me will type in a very calm and understanding comment underneath my video explaining why they disagree, and won't it all be confrontational or stupid or derivative or just plain negative or tell me to go fuck myself. Next up on the curriculum. Hey, thanks for watching this really long review. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed making it the first time, but maybe not having to re-edit it again. Anyway, I want to give a big shout out to Kweer Kaiju for letting me use his covers of various Shin Godzilla music during this review and other tracks in general, like the one you're listening to now. If you like Godzilla or big monsters and synth, you should probably be committed somewhere. While you're getting institutionalized, you should check out his channel. He has great covers of what feels like most of the Godzilla franchise and other shows and movies, like a very sweet Gridman themed cover. Very catchy. Highly recommend. You can find links down to him in the description. Finally, if you liked this video, please think about liking it, maybe commenting what you thought of Shin or the review in general. And if you want to see more videos like this, then hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend or even an enemy. YouTube constantly makes it hard to get seen, and any engagement or boost means a lot to me. Anyway, this has been Professor Kaiju. I'll see you at some point.